All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are heading to the Greek city of Kastoria, because tucked away there is something incredible, a 1,200-year-old Byzantine jewel box. We're talking about the Church of St. Stephen, and its story is literally etched in stone, plaster, and paint. So let's open it up and see what's inside. And we have to start with its most mind-blowing secret. Hidden inside these ancient walls is the single oldest, the absolute first surviving depiction of the Second Coming. Yep, the apocalypse, in all of Greece. It's a vision of the end times painted over a millennium ago. Just think about that. So to really get what makes this place so special, we're going to treat it just like a jewel box. First things first, you have to look at the casket itself, the ancient container that's been holding all this history for centuries. Okay, so picture this. Perched on a hill in Kastoria, the Church of St. Stephen was built somewhere around 900 AD. That makes it one of the oldest Byzantine monuments you can still walk into in the entire Balkans. But it's not just old. Its style, its stonework, its whole vibe is so unique that it actually defines a regional building style, what's known as the Kastorian School of Architecture. Now for the fun part. Let's imagine we're opening the first tray of our jewel box. We're going to look at the architecture, the blueprints, because this is where you start to see just how important this church was, right from day one. At its heart, the church is what's called a three-aisled basilica. The basic idea is pretty simple. You see it here. A high central hall, that's the nave, with two lower side aisles on either side. Now, this was a pretty common layout for churches back then, but St. Stephen added some very uncommon features to the mix. And these are the details that really make it pop. First, it has a gynecomaterion. That's a women's gallery. It is the only one like it in any Byzantine church in the entire city. Then, get this, tucked away inside that gallery is a tiny private chapel, an escatedarion. And finally, the main sanctuary has a built-in throne for a bishop. Now, these aren't just little design flourishes. They are major clues. So what's the story here? You've got a bishop's throne, a one-of-a-kind gallery, a secret chapel. Well, when you put all these pieces together, it pretty strongly suggests that St. Stephen wasn't just some local parish church. No way. It was likely a major monastic center, maybe even the city's main cathedral, a place of huge importance from the moment it was built. Okay, time to go a little deeper. We're now opening the jewel box's hidden compartment, the one that holds its most precious treasure, the art. Because the frescoes of St. Stephen, they're like a gallery painted across time itself. The walls of this church are, and I mean this literally, a timeline you can see with your own eyes. The story kicks off in the 9th century with that first ancient layer of paint. Then, hundreds of years later, during the Komnenian dynasty, there's a big renovation and a whole new layer of more sophisticated art is added. And finally, in the 13th and 14th centuries, wealthy locals started paying to have their own portraits painted right onto the walls. Now, that first layer of art from the 9th century, it isn't just old, it's a historic landmark. This is the oldest painting of the Last Judgment ever found in Greece. And what's wild is that some parts of it were never even finished. You can still see figures that are just simple sketches on the wall, a ghostly echo of an artist's work interrupted more than 1,000 years ago. During that second phase, the big Komnenian renovation, the artists did something really deep theologically speaking. They painted a series showing the 3 ages of Christ, Emmanuel as a young boy, the Pantocrator in his prime, and the Ancient of Days as an old man with white hair. This wasn't just telling a story, it was this complex, mystical statement about the eternal nature of Christ, all right there on the central arch. But, it's not all grand theological statements. These walls also tell some very personal stories. The inscriptions and the portraits, they're kind of like the signatures of the jewels keepers, and they connect us directly to the people who actually prayed here. And unbelievably, we actually know some of their names. We know that in the late 13th or early 14th century, a priest named Theodoros Limniotius paid for a big renovation. We can also see a portrait from 1338 of a donor named George who calls himself a humble supplicant. It's a powerful reminder that this grand church was also a personal space for prayer and even for burials. So, you ready for a historical plot twist? That priest, Theodoros Limniatis, it looks like he didn't just renovate the church, he might have renamed it. We have historical texts from the Byzantine princess Anna Komnene, and she talks about a major church called St. George in this exact spot. It seems that for its first 400 years, this building was known by a completely different name. So, as we close our jewel box, let's just take a moment to appreciate maybe its most incredible feature. It's sheer resilience. This monument has survived centuries of conflict and change, and its story is still being written today in the ongoing struggle to preserve it. This church really wears the scars of its long history. During the Ottoman era, the eyes of the saints in the frescoes were systematically scratched out. In 1940, during World War II, an aerial bomb blew the dome apart. But right alongside all that damage is a beautiful story of care. In the early 20th century, an outer porch was added to make room for more people. And today, Greece's Ephorate of Antiquities is constantly at work trying to conserve its fragile art and structure. So what does all this add up to? Well, it adds up to over 1,200 years of continuous history, art, and faith, all contained within these stone walls. It's a direct, unbroken line all the way back to the early Byzantine world. You see, this monument isn't just a building. It's a 12-century-long story. It's a narrative told in stone and plaster. And that really leaves us with a vital question. How do we become the right guardians for a story that is this precious and this old?